All right, so national season is in full swing, and let us go ahead and take a look at some really cool, also rogue deck lists doing well at nationals. Some of them are even winning. We have really exciting deck lists to take a look at, so let's go ahead and get started. But before we do, make sure you like the video if you enjoy it, and let me know what you're playing at nationals. I would love to know what your deck choice is. So let's go. The first one is going to be Tempai Dragon. Now, I said there's some cool deck lists. I don't know how you feel about Tempai Dragon. I think it's kind of a cool deck. People say they don't really like to play against it. But for this particular build, I actually listened to the deck profile and the players said that, they decided to play not that many back row removal cards and like hard going second cards because a lot of players allegedly knew what this person was on. So they decided to play cards that are also good going first for the instances when they also like send them first because they knew what their deck choice, if that makes sense. So yes, they decided to play 3 Cosmic, 3 Impermanence, 3 Droplet, also Rivalry, and Call by the Grave for this particular reason. But I think overall Tempai Dragon builds are, extremely standard when it comes to the engine part. You can cut Magnamut or move it to the side, which this is what this person decided to do. For the rest, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I've also seen Tempai Dragon lists with Harpies and Lightning Storm in the main deck. In the side deck, we see the Dragon, which of course is really helpful in some matchups when you can bring him out with Hieratic Seal. A lot of players, when I listen to Tempai Dragon deck profiles, they actually say that they want to play 2 seals and some of them just don't. So in hindsight, this person will also play a second seal, and I'm not certain what he actually said he would cut. I think it was Dualittle Chimera, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, and as for the rest, it is pretty standard. But also, I guess the out of the ordinary thing would be set rotation with Raid Sauce, which is really cool because if your opponent, when you're playing the mirror match, is not on Fenrir, it's really useful. So that's nice. But, a lot of people also are. I think Fenrir is becoming more and more popular as a staple. So let's move on to a stun list. Yes, I swear fun lists are coming, but this is a stun list. I will stop rhyming. Let's just take a look at this list. It is very standard. It is just a lot of runic spells. Of course, Amano Ivato, and that's the only monster. We also have Inspector Border in the side deck, and of course, Shifter, our very beloved card. We also have 6 pot cards. I think this is like one of the most cookie cutter builds when it comes to a stun deck. There's also 3 skill drain. Actually, there is not as many floodgates in the form of trap cards, but there is D-Fissure though, which is, pretty much Shifter, but in the form of a spell card. So that's also nice. And then there's, of course, all the runic fusions that you could possibly need, Baguska as well as Sky Crisis. And we also see 1 Grave of the Super Ancient Organism in the side deck. I think it makes sense to play more one-offs in a runic deck because you're actually going to draw into them. We are going to see Grave of the Super Ancient Organism at multiples in some other side decks because it is really powerful still against the likes of Branded and Kashtira and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's nice. Let's move on. So there is 1 Snake Eye list. I think this is the only one, but I wanted to showcase it because it's actually Fire King Snake Eye, which this deck kind of just stopped existing for a short period of time, or it just wasn't really present in as many numbers, I would say. But yeah, this person won Austrian Nationals with Fire King Snake Eye. So I guess one of the most interesting things about this list would be 3 Book of Eclipse in the main deck, which I have to actually find this. If it's a deck profile, I want to listen to it. I want to hear, I guess their reasoning and like side deck patterns if they mention them when it comes to this, because it's actually a 43 card deck. So that's interesting. 3 Kirin, which is also interesting. You could play 2. I've seen a lot of lists with 2. And the 3 Book of Eclipse. Also, Droplet is great. I think Droplet is pretty much a must-have right now. And as for the side deck, this is the deck I was talking about. This 3 Grave of the Super Ancient Organism, which you desperately need. 3 Skill Drain as well. 3 Dark Ruler, which is cool. I think Dark Ruler is fine, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of decks still have Layered Disruption, but I guess it's okay. So, yes. The rest is very standard. 3 talents as well. I really don't like these kinds of decks when you really want to see your starters and extenders when they go above 40. I just don't really mess with that, but of course, to each their own. Let's move on to Kashtira. Yes, 3-shifter, 3 of the important Kashtira monsters, and then there's the Scareclaw Kashtira, no Kashtira Ogre. And as for the hand traps, so the lineup is, I think, 3, 6, 9, 12. So it is 15 non-engine, one of which is Rivalry. Double Ghost Ogre, which Ghost Ogre is a really strong card. Especially with so many players playing Tempite Dragon, you really, really need Ghost Ogre. So yes, let's take a look at the extra deck if there is anything out of the ordinary. I guess there is. There is no Heat Soul package. Just interesting. I would love to know the reason behind that, because I don't know, I genuinely think the Heat Soul package is nice, but I'm not that into the Kashtira deck, so perhaps there have been some changes that I missed out on. So let me know if, if you feel like that package is not that great anymore. I would really love to know that. So yes, let's move on to the side deck. Double Lava Golem, a double Ghost Bell. I actually love the 2-ofs in the side deck. I've always been such a huge fan of this. It's nice, you get to fit many more cards, and if it fits your side deck patterns, I think it makes sense. And also 3 Barrier, which is also quite an important card, and 3 Judgment. Okay, so this is one of the fun decks I wanted to talk about. It is 60 card plant, I guess. I wouldn't even say Rika. I think it would be doing this deck injustice if I just say Rika, because it's Ragnarika, Aroma Lilith, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's a lot. So if I'm completely honest with you, I don't really know the full extent to which the plant deck has evolved. I've seen stuff with Ragnarika and, Rika and all of that, but I never went in depth when it comes to that. So please educate me. Let me know what you think about this deck. I think it is really interesting. I think a lot of players probably don't know what's going on when they're up against this deck. So I think this is also one of the reasons for its success. Not taking anything away from this player, it's an amazing accomplishment, but yeah, it's also interesting because, so let me check out what they are actually playing if they get stopped. Of course, there's extenders in this deck. You do have talents, which is fine. You can set the droplet if you're going first to have it as a disruption, and you do have non-engine, but I still feel like, in a format with so many hand traps, it is interesting, to say the least, to see this deck do well. The side deck is Cactus Bouncer, which is cool. The other monsters, and then we have a lot of back removal, double Dark Ruler, which is interesting, and 1 Rivalry also, which is pretty much, again, a staple if you can play it. So this deck, my main issue with this deck is that it is 42 cards. Like, there's a whole bunch of 2-ofs, and it's 42, and I just don't really, again, like, this is second place nationals, so I'm not knocking anybody, but it is an interesting build, to say the least. 2 cross out. I get that there is 1 talent. However, you want to see cross out. Like, I don't really like this deck list. Let's still check it out, of course. It is Centurion, so the basic Centurion package is here, one of the new monsters as well. And Horus cards, 2 King Sarcophagus, 2 talents, 2 ogre, 2 veiler. Like, I understand that. If you don't want to play 3, you have to play 2. If you're playing cross out, you don't want to draw it and cross out and just have a 1-off. That just sucks pretty much. But I don't know. As for the rest, I'm not a fan of the 2-offs. In here specifically, and of the 42 card build, and I don't know. Let me know. If you're a Centurion player, please rate this deck list for me. I would really, really love to know what you think. So let's move on to Labyrinth. This is also one of the fun decks I wanted to talk about. I don't think it's actually that extraordinary when it comes to its build. Quite basic. Labyrinth to the point to which it's evolved right now, which is almost mandatory to play 3 Backjack at this point, I think, and also 3 Arias and all the trap cards, so you're able to do as many plays during your opponent's turn as well. I just feel like this deck really shines when it is proactively doing something, and that's pretty much what you're trying to accomplish with your furnitures and Arias and all of that. So yeah, I guess it's interesting that it is 42 cards and it's Tunibiru, and like, Okay, there is trap tricks, so I understand the two of course, the barrier and punishment and all of that, but I don't know. I don't like the fact it's over 40. I'm not a huge fan of that. Again, you do want as much consistency as possible. And like in this deck in particular, like you want to see your 3-card combos, and with every single card you add, you just minimize your chances. I know it's almost insignificant, but still, I think it matters. I don't know, you could possibly move the field spell to the side, perhaps. And yeah, but again, who am I to judge? Of course, this is the winner of Mexico Nationals, so I don't know. I think I have to be quiet. But yeah, as for the side deck, there is 3 Lava Golem, which this deck can definitely utilize. Phantasme, which is also amazing in this deck, just helping you draw into your 2 to 3 card combos. And the standard trap cards that you have to play in Labyrinth. Let's move on. This is Greece Nationals top 8 Chimera. Now, I've been hyping up Nightmare Apprentice for the longest time, I think. This card is really, really helpful for Chimera. I think it's just such a solid piece of support. And it's actually such a clean deck also, just branded Chimera. And with this deck in particular, I think it's fine to go over 45, especially now that you have Nightmare Apprentice as well, which is an amazing extender. And yeah, I like this deck list. I think it's really solid, and you can play, of course, your called by and talents and all of that to just help you, because your opponent is gonna hand trap you for a fact. And yeah, as for the rest, I think nothing is that out of the ordinary. I guess yeah, there is Tiger King Vangu. I'm not certain what this card is in the side deck, the one next to Cosmic, so please help me out with that. And yeah, I guess the rest is quite standard. France Nationals, top 16, Salamangreat. Yes, it is 2024 and this happened. So let's quickly check this deck list out. You know, not to make fun of Salamangreat, I think it's actually quite a solid contender right now, especially with the fire support it's gotten. So yes, Rivalry in the main deck. Again, if your deck can run it, you have to run it. 1 Nibiru. That's kind of random, actually, but the rest is fine, I guess. You do play quite a heavy count of engine, just overall. So how much non-engine is there, actually? 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Well, it is 14. They just decided to play this lineup, which I guess it's fine. Double talents. I've always been a fan of double talents, actually. That I really liked that, always. Only 1 Signet Mining. Interesting deck list, actually. And as for the side deck, Snatch Steal is really cool. Snatch Steal is really nice. And like a Change of Heart and those kinds of cards. Let's move on. This is Melodious. So yeah, when it comes to Melodious monster lineup, I think from what I've seen in some deck lists, people are still a little indecisive. So if you're a Melodious player, let me know what you think is the perfect lineup. But of course, you need to have Refrain and Couplet. That is mandatory. And there's also one of the Aria and then the other ones. Herald, amazing. All the hand traps under the sun, pretty much, that you can play in this deck. And yeah, I think the rest is standard. 1 of Rivalry again. As for the extra deck, just a lot of Melodious cards. SP, Baguska, and the side deck is also very clean, actually. I like Didi Crow. Look, I wanted to include Dark World because I always bash Dark World, so here you have a topping deck list, top 32, France Nationals, it is Dark World. Just very standard deck list, a lot of dangers and Dark World cards. So for all of you enjoyers out there, there's the deck list in my video. That's pretty much all I'm gonna say when it comes to this deck. I don't think this deck is that great, but this player was probably really good with it. So let's move on. This is the last deck list. Look, it is Mananium with no Baron. So I assume what you're doing is at the point when you could make Baron, you just make another level 10 Synchro, I guess, which is still fine because this deck put up many disruptions. Like Baron was not your only play, so I totally understand this deck is nice when it actually goes off and it's able to establish a board, but a lot of times it's not going to, especially in a format with so many hand traps. So I think it is a great accomplishment to go, to top 16 at Nationals. But it's also kind of odd because of all the hand traps and stuff. And they're also only siding 2 Crossout, which is again a little odd. But yeah, great accomplishment nonetheless. I think the deck list is actually quite standard. There is 1 Monster Reborn, which is cool. You do need extenders, so it makes sense. That's pretty much going to be it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I didn't put just a bunch of Snake Eye deck lists in here. Cool decks are actually doing well, and I really believe you can do well with pretty much anything that you build, and really test and prepare for the meta, prepare with your side deck and your patterns and all of that, and really know the ins and outs of the decks. So let me know what you chose for Nationals, or if you're going, what you're going to be playing. I would love to know, and of course like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one.